to the Elevate podcast, where we help you move from burnout to bliss in business, career, and in life. I'm your host, Ebony Clark, and unfortunately, today I am flying solo. Reggie's out of town, but don't worry, we've got an incredible guest joining me. We're talking with Monica Jenious from Meridian Financial. She's a fractional CFO and business valuation expert. We will be talking about something every business owner needs to know but rarely thinks about. What is your business really worth? Whether you plan to run your company forever or pass it on to family or one day just step away, knowing the value of your business could change your retirement, your legacy, and even the way you run things now. So if you've ever wondered, should I sell instead of closing my doors? Could business fund my retirement, or is it even worth leaving to my children? You do not want to miss this conversation. It's time to elevate. Let's dive in. All right, guys, so we are back with another Elevate episode, and I am so excited today because I have one of my very best friends here joining us, Monica Jenious, and I know you guys say that about everybody, but I truly do have awesome people around me and very knowledgeable people around me. So we are very excited to have Monica here. Again, Monica is with Meridian Financial, and she focuses on fractional CFO services and business valuation. So we're really going to get into what your business is actually worth. And unfortunately, like I said, it'll just be me and Monica today. Reggie's out of town, and we're going to miss his conversation and his input, but we're going to keep it pushing. So, hey, Monica.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
No problem. So, talking about business valuation, you work with a lot of businesses, as do I. And I know that a lot of times they actually know, or sometimes they may know how much revenue comes into their business, but I would guess that very few businesses actually know what their business is worth. What do you think?
I would absolutely agree with that. And often business owners don't always know exactly how much revenue is coming in or how much net income is coming in. So financial literacy is always important, never more so than when you own the business and when your future depends on the results.
Got it. So in plain language, what actually is business valuation?
Sure. So business valuation is the process of determining how much your business is worth. This can be incredibly valuable for a number of reasons, whether you're planning to sell, attract investors, or simply assess the value of what you've built.
Got it.
But it's not just about setting a price tag. It's about understanding where your business stands financially and how you can make decisions that drive growth.
So if somebody is in the throes of everyday business, like, why should they even care? Like, if I, especially a small business owner, so if I know I got payroll today, I got to make sure this product goes out. Like, why should I even care at this time what my business is worth?
Well, the thing about it is, just like with anything else with financial planning, you don't want to wait until you need to do it to understand it, right?
Okay.
So when you own a business, it's really critical to understand where you stand at all times. And so some of those key numbers that people always pay attention to is, your sales and your profit and those kind of things. But there are also other indicators, other KPIs that are really important to keep track of because you can change that number.
So I'm going to pause just
Sure.
1 second. Explain what a KPI is.
Sure.
So we want to make sure we're not missing we're both accountants, so a lot of times you should hear us on the phone. We have our own, it's almost like our own language sometimes, but we have to stop and realize that not everybody speaks accountantese. So explain what a KPI is.
Certainly. So a KPI is a key performance indicator.
Okay.
Right? So it's one of those metrics, one of those numbers the numbers that make the most impact in terms of how your business is run, how well it's operating, and how you're really developing and growing as a company.
Got it. And this is what you do when there are companies that don't have time to do this on their own. This is what you do for them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So what we do as CFO is help to improve cash flow, improve profitability, and improve owner income, right? How much money you're pulling out of the business and how efficiently you're operating, right?
Okay.
So it's not only about how much money you're bringing in, but how efficiently are you using those dollars to put more money in your pocket and make sure that the business is continuing to run and operate well and grow.
Got it. So if the money is coming in and money coming in is not an issue, you may evaluate why they may be spending it on A, like marketing effort A, but marketing effort A is not getting them as much as marketing effort B would get. And so you would help them make that switch?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Right. It's one of those things where in large corporations, there's always a CFO. And the CFO is helping the big picture goals actually come true.
Okay.
In the small business environment, the CFO is often absent, right? Like you have somebody that pays the bills, you have somebody that makes sure that your employees get paid. You have somebody that files your taxes, but who do you have that's making sure that you're as profitable as you could be, right? With your existing revenue, with your existing services and your existing products. Often there's no one taking care of that. And so when we come into a business, we get all into the details, right? So that you can make those investments in terms of, does this marketing program make sense? Are we actually getting the return on our investment as we should? And that could be for a marketing program or a piece of equipment, or even, how can we increase employee engagement so that our employees stay longer and we have fewer hiring costs?
Interesting. Okay, cool. So let me ask you another question. You talked about KPIs. Can you give us some examples of, I know you gave us some, but I'm sure that they have to deal with different things like financial health, maybe systems and processes, focusing on customers. So how do you determine for a particular company what those KPIs should be? And for people who are listening, and they have their own business, how do they take this information and even know what they should be tracking for their specific business?
Absolutely. So there are KPIs, there are hundreds that you could possibly use. There are some that I feel are universal and are effective management tools for any business. The first one is going to be days cash on hand, right? And so that deals all about cash flow. As they say, cash flow is king, right? Because you can be profitable but not have any cash. And you can have cash and not be profitable,
That's
right?
true.
But you do always have to make sure that you've got enough money on hand. So days cash on hand basically measures how many days could you operate without receiving another dollar of revenue. If your client takes 6 months to pay you, are you going to be able to keep your doors open? Right? And so days cash on hand is one of the main ones. Days in accounts receivable is another key one, I think, which basically says how long does it take your clients to pay you?
Okay.
And then days in accounts payable, how long does it take you to pay your vendors?
Okay.
And so the one of the key things that I always want business owners to do is have a really good handle on what is your cash flow cycle. Right? How sensitive are you to late payments from your clients or unexpected business expenses? Because as we all know, things happen at any time.
Every day.
Right.
Every single day.
Yeah,
Some big, some small, but every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are KPIs around cash flow, KPIs around revenue growth, and KPIs around profitability that I think are universal for all businesses.
Man, that is some really great information. Because I'm sure a lot of people hadn't even heard of KPIs, because you can just get so into working in your business that you don't have time to work on your business. One report that a lot of people are familiar with is the P&L, but that's different from a valuation. Like, explain that. Like, how does the P&L compare to the valuation? Or people may think that that's the same thing. Right. I know it just gets confusing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So the thing about it is there are a number of ways that a business could be valued. But starting with the profit and loss statement is always a good place to start. So the profit and loss statement essentially tells you how much revenue you earned, how much expenses you've had, and how much bottom line profit you have for a period of time. And oftentimes that is the starting point for valuation.
Okay.
So they can either look at your overall sales number and say you made $1 million in sales, and we think we can replicate that $1 million in sales without you. And so we're going to offer you a multiple of that. It might be 1.5 times that or 2.5 times that. They could also consider both your income statement and your balance sheet.
Okay.
So your income statement is going to reflect your business activities for a period of time. Your balance sheet says, what do you own, what do you owe, and what is the difference, right? What is the equity, so to speak, in your business? So if someone is looking at purchasing your business, they're not only buying your cash flow and your profit, but they're also possibly buying the stuff that you have, right? Your equipment, your vehicles, all those things. So the first thing is you want to make sure that your financial statements are accurate. So if somebody's looking at your numbers and able to give you a number, it's based off of what's actually happening in real time.
Got it.
And secondly, if you're early in the game, then you really want to be able to understand what those numbers look like to a third party, to an objective third party, so that you can influence those numbers to your benefit.
Got it. Okay. And you said that when someone buys a business, they're buying the activity, so they're buying the cash flow,
right,
and they're buying what the business owns, but are they also buying the debt?
They are not.
They're not buying the debt.
They are often not, right?
Okay.
So normally in a business, when a business sells, the debt goes with the owner. And so you have to make sure that the number that you have in your head is not only going to cover what you need to walk away from the business and the income that you're leaving on the table, but you're also able to cover any existing obligations that you have that you incurred while you were operating the business yourself.
Got it. That's good to know.
And it's something that people don't often take into account. So somebody says they want to buy my business. I've got a client now who owns a dental practice, and a corporation approached them to, possibly take over ownership of their practice. And so I told them, I'm like, you guys need to take into account not only how much do you need to take care of yourselves, but how much do you need in order to take care of your previous obligations? Because that's not going to be the responsibility of the new owner.
Interesting. Okay. So do you have an example of like a client that you worked with, and you don't have to tell us who, but
Sure.
I'm saying you went through the valuation and it ended up being different for better or for worse than what they were expecting?
Absolutely. I've got another vet practice owner that I'm working with who's in the process right now of selling her practice. And so when we started looking at the value of the business 3 years ago, we got into a lot of the details. Let's get into your top services that you offer. How profitable are those? And we found out in one of her top 3 services, she was actually losing about 30% on that revenue stream.
Oh, wow.
And so I did a kind of a paper valuation for her a few years ago, and we got into the details and said, how can we actually make this what it needs to be in order for you to accomplish your goals and walk away from the business with what you need in your pocket, and so you feel good about the transaction as well. And so we were able to get in there, we were able to change some pricing things and really improve her number so that when they actually did come back with the number, it was 2.5 times what we started with originally.
Oh, wow.
And the key really, as the seller of the business, is really being able to articulate your own value. So you're not relying on their valuation, but you have an idea on your own. No, I know my business is worth this because my revenue is strong, my customers are loyal, I've got low employee retention, I've got high customer retention, and those are some of the KPIs that we were talking about before, and how that really plays into your valuation and your position as the owner, and how you can sit across the table and know this is the number that I need, and I'm not going to take anything below this.
Right. Man, so I want to highlight something you said. You said that on one of their product or service offerings, I don't know if it was a product or a service, they were actually losing money on that.
Right.
I hadn't worked with a vet practice, but I worked with a lot of restaurants. And you'd be surprised, or you wouldn't be surprised, but most people would be surprised at how much pricing plays into profitability.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of times businesses will look at similar businesses and price their products or services based on how other people price their products or services because they want to be consistent with the market.
Sure.
But you have to look at your own labor. You have to look at how much it costs you to make that product.
Absolutely.
So I've worked with restaurants and gone in and said, we need to completely change. Like your chicken wing prices are the same as they were 5 years ago, but chicken wings have doubled since then. So every single time you sell your 5 whole wings, fries, and a drink, you're losing money. That's hustling backwards.
Absolutely.
It makes no sense. So you have to look at, and there are whole spreadsheets and analysis and all of that stuff from a complicated standpoint, but it can be simplified. If you make a breakfast item, how much is each egg?
Absolutely.
How much is 2 slices of turkey bacon? And some potatoes. If that costs $6 to make, let's charge $12.
Right.
And this is just rough estimate. But if it costs $6 to make, don't charge $8 because the food didn't cook itself.
Exactly.
So you have labor, you have utilities. It's all these things that should go into pricing, all of the overhead. So if you have a business and you definitely want to take a look at your price, if you're trying to figure out why you're not making money each month, but you have sales, then that may be part of the issue. We have a couple minutes left on this segment. Anything that you want to add? Anything we missed concerning valuations?
I don't think we've missed anything, but I just want to expand on the point that details matter. And so it's not enough just to get a profit and loss statement from somebody once a month. You really have to understand the drivers of your success.
Got it.
And you also need to pay a lot of attention to your overall operating costs. There are some costs that you can't avoid. But there are a lot of costs that are incurred because you're trying to make investments to, become more known and to increase your brand and to increase your value and those things. And that's all great, but you have to make sure that you're taking care of the house, right? You have to make sure that when you're pricing your products and services, that you're not able to cover the cost, your raw cost of that particular thing. But how can you make sure that that business will be there and be profitable? How can you make sure the house is taken care of so that you can be there to serve 5 years from now? You're not running into the ground and burn out because you're doing everything that you can and you're providing excellent service and you're trying to make it as cheap as possible. You're almost doing you're customers a disservice.
Yeah,
right?
you are. Mm-hmm.
Because you want to make sure that they're able to come back and see you. Mm-hmm. And so you have to make sure, just like in life, that you're taking care of yourself as well as you're taking care of your customers. And from a finance perspective, that's all in the pricing.
That's a very good point. And we met this lady. Her name is Tamika Tyson, and we plan on having her on the show as well. But she does business consulting, mm-hmm. and she asked her clients, is that a ROE or ROI? Mm. The ROI, of course, return on investment. ROE is return on ego.
That's real, yeah.
So some of the branding things or making sure that you're well known, mm-hmm. that may not, or even some of the products or services that you offer, or even businesses you start, that may not be ROI that you're searching for. Mm-hmm. You may be searching for ROE. Mm-hmm. So just make sure it's worth it.
That's a really good point. Absolutely.
But this is it for first segment. We will be back shortly. It's been great. In the next segment, we're going to talk about what are your options when you're actually ready to step away from your business. We'll be back in a few. It's time to elevate.
Today's episode is sponsored by P3 Financial Group, where we enrich the lives of our clients by helping them plan, protect, and prosper. Call P3 for all your tax and financial planning needs at 901-209-4015. That's 901-209-4015.
Hey, Elevate fam. Are you a business or brand looking to get in front of an audience that's all about leveling up in life, business, and mindset? Then let's partner up. The Elevate podcast is now accepting sponsors. That means you can get your brand heard by a growing community of go-getters, creatives, and purpose-driven listeners right here on the show. Whether it's a product shout-out, an ad spot, or a custom collaboration, we've got options for you. Want in? Hit us up at elevatenowtraining.com. Let's elevate together. And we're back. You are listening to the Elevate podcast, From Burnout to Bliss. This is Ebony Clark, and our guest this week is Monica Jenious with Meridian Financial. We have been talking about what your business is worth, how to value, sell, and transition your business. So in the first segment, we got into what business valuation actually is, along with talking about key performance indicators for your business. So now let's talk about what options do you have when you are ready to step away from your business. And keep in mind, when you're ready to step away, a lot of times you've put years and years and years into building what you have. And now you're at a point in your life where you think you may want to do something different. So what do you think? Like, should people close shop completely versus selling? What's your take on that?
In my opinion, you should always try to sell.
Okay.
I think selling your business gives you that kind of pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like you said, Ebony, mm-hmm. you spent all these years, it was your baby in your brain, and then you brought it into the real world, and you've worked it, and you've had problems, and you've hired employees, and you've made money, and now you're at the end of this stage of your journey. The best way that you can capitalize on all the work that you've put in mm-hmm. is to sell your business.
And I see so many people, especially in our community, they don't even know where to go to
right.
begin to sell their business. So they retire by closing mm-hmm. the doors because they may not have had an apprentice,
right,
or someone working the business with mm-hmm. them, or they may not have had children that wanted to go into the business. I know with our children, with our middle daughter, she said that P3 was her fifth option. So if 4 other things don't work out, then she may consider working
that's
for P3.
Real. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times,
that's fine.
Yeah, kids aren't interested in having the same lifestyle that their parents have for different reasons.
Right. And they have, like you said, they may not be interested in the same lifestyle, and they may have completely different interests.
Absolutely.
So what Reggie and I had to come to grips with is like, yes, this was our baby. Mm-hmm. This doesn't mean that that's what they want to do. This is just the method we chose.
Right.
To make money and take care of our family. So it would be nice.
Right.
So we do have one child in the business, so that's great. But it would be nice if all 3 wanted to, but if they don't, that's fine. But so we've determined, at least in our opinion, that selling is better than just closing doors.
Absolutely.
So we need a buyer, right? Mm-hmm. So do you think it's better to sell internally to a family member, maybe a different family member that is interested, or maybe a key employee that's kind of been with you the whole time, or to someone outside, a buyer, investor?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. Selling internally, I would say both scenarios have advantages and disadvantages.
Okay.
Selling internally does allow you to maintain a little bit more control and continue to have input oftentimes versus selling to a third-party buyer or investor. And so in that way, you're able to make sure that your clients and your customers, who over time, of course, become friends and family, or maybe started as friends and family and became your clients, to make sure that they're still getting that same level of care and concern that you showed them.
And that's important.
It is really important.
And because people do business with people. The product or the service is the secondary reason, but they do people do business with people.
Right, because I want to walk in the door and I want you guys to know who I am. And I want to be treated like family, not like I'm at the DMV and take a number. Right? Of course, the challenge with that is, owning a business is really monetizing your expertise. And so I think you have to really be careful when you talk about turning the business over to family, key employees, etc., because you have to make sure that you are replacing every element of expertise that you bring to the table with another person. And that's often the challenge. Even with key employees, they may have been with you since day one, but if they never had to sweat to make payroll, they have not had the same experience that you've had as a business owner, right?
And they didn't go into a whole session of prayer,
right?
Because payroll was the next day. Then they didn't have the same experience.
Exactly. So how business ownership looks, even from somebody who you've been paying to be beside you the whole time. Y'all are having an entirely different experience, right? It's like going on a family vacation. The person that plans the vacation and the people that go on the trip are having an entirely different experience.
That's
right?
100% true.
And so it's the same thing with business ownership. You've had to sit back and think about, what do you want to offer? How do you want to execute it? How do you want it to feel? How do you want to deliver the service? What infrastructure do you need to have behind the scenes in order to maintain that level of service? And so being able to transition that knowledge to another person can be challenging. I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's challenging. And I think you have to be really real with what it is that you do for your business. And so if you're stepping away, and I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but as you consider stepping away, you really have to give a really hard look to what is it going to take to replace what it is that I bring to the table. And it's not just subject matter expertise, although you absolutely have to have that. And as a person that you're looking to replace you, do they have that same level and depth of knowledge so that they can really provide the same level of service truly to your clients? But also, are they able to have a big picture view so that they can continue to drive it in a particular direction?
Got it.
Right? An employee is the beneficiary of your vision and your direction. Right? So do they have the muscle strength and the muscle memory to say, okay, now I have to create a strategy for how I'm going to build this business 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now.
That's right. And they have to decide whether that's the type of lifestyle that they want.
Absolutely.
Because it's two different lifestyles. So it's not, even if you said they checked all the boxes, expertise, all of that stuff, is this what you want? Like I was talking with my sister, and she was talking about, she had an opportunity to start her own practice. She's a physician, and we were just talking about lifestyle and where she was in life at the time. And at the time, she had 2 in college and a middle school student, and she's deep into her career. So she really had to sit down and say, it's at this point, is that what I want? Right. 20 years into my career, do I want to start a practice practically from scratch? Right. And everything that goes along with it. So that may be vacations that I can no longer go on because I don't have the time, when I'm used to taking several a year. Right. So in addition to all of the technical things with selling a business, whether to someone inside, family member or key employee, that person really has to decide, is this the lifestyle that I want?
Absolutely, because you go home from work. You don't go home from your business.
Right.
You just move your office from the building to the house, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then when it comes to external buyers, one thing I want to say about internal buyers, when you're selling internally, you often have the opportunity to stay after the transaction close date and help to continue to provide your expertise, your direction. You're there as a support person. I know a vet practice right now who purchased the practice from the outgoing vet and he's still there a year and a half later. So not only is he drawing a paycheck and able to continue his income stream, but he's also able to, get very nice lump sum payments on a regular basis. But he's there to make sure that his people are taken care of, and the people that he's been serving for the past 30 years. And he's able to come in 2 days a week and still, be involved without having to be responsible.
Sometimes for external buyers, it's almost two different types of buyers. One is someone that is currently in the industry and they're looking to expand.
Right.
So it's almost a merger acquisition type thing, and they just want to absorb your business, your clientele, your practices. Maybe take the best of both. Okay, you are really good at this type of organization and this standard operating procedure, and I'm not. So let's merge these two together. Another type is just an investor. They're looking to put their money into something that's going to get a return. And what it seems like is a lot of times when it's the investor, they want the owner to stay on for a period of time because they want to ensure their success and their return on investment.
Absolutely.
So
I think that's absolutely true.
That may be something that if you're looking to sell to an external buyer who is from an investment standpoint, keep that in mind as well. They may want you to stay on 1, 2, 3, 5 years. So you might want to start the process. If you know you want to retire in 5 years and you want to sell, you might want to start looking now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because the deal may not go through if you think you're going to go home right after then.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true.
When people get ready to sell, so anytime we have a business and we started that business from scratch, that is our baby.
Yep.
It was an idea at one point in your head, and now that idea has come to fruition. And you may have staff, you may have spent 20, 30 years in it, and now somebody wants you to give that up. In exchange for money, but the attachment to the money isn't as strong as the attachment to all the sweat and tears that you put into this business. So you have to kind of toe the line between making an emotional decision and financial decision when it comes to selling.
I think that's absolutely true. And what I would suggest is find a way that you can still maintain the emotional connection that you have, just in different ways, right? So if you're no longer the primary person owning this business and having to be there every day and making sure that the lights are on, how can you take your energy and invest it in a way that's going to give you an emotional return, right? Is there a organization that you could volunteer with, right? That where you can still pour into the people that you care about. I think a business is service, whether you have a product or a service offering. Owning a business is community service, right? Because you're organizing these things in a way to provide something to people. And so there's absolutely the financial factors of making the decision. Is the dollar amount enough, to balance out what I'm giving up? But then also that kind of emotional connection that you have and that you develop over your years and years of business ownership. What is your new outlet for that? Okay. Right. And I think that's how you can really find that balance between I'm ready to walk away from the stress of it, but I'm not ready to walk away from the people of it, right? So how can you really find a way that you can connect emotionally with something that can give you that same sort of purpose and sense of service that you've had and developed over the years?
That's a great idea. And I think one key is also finding someone else to help you through the process.
Absolutely.
Someone like you who does this for a living. Because if it's left up to you and if it's between emotional and financial and you choose emotional decisions lead you down a bad path. Like typically, if you make a decision based on emotion instead of logic, that is going to be a bad decision.
Right.
So you need someone that helps you with the logic part.
Absolutely.
Just like if you have a loved one pass away and you're going to the funeral home, you may end up buying $50,000 worth of stuff.
Right.
You need someone with you. And I've been that for people. You need someone with you that can help you look at it logically and take the emotional part out of it. So I think you need the exact same thing when you're trying to sell your business.
I agree.
You need entirely. The logic part. And the funny thing is, I love watching Shark Tank.
Me too.
And some people come in and they know all of the numbers. And it's purely transactional for them. The valuation that they've come up with makes sense. And then there are others that come in and they want a $10 million valuation and they hadn't sold a product. but they want the investors to be as excited about it as they are. And they hadn't sold anything yet, but it's worth $10 million because I worked hard and I've been trying to do this and I put everything I had into this business. You have. That's your business.
Right. But is that something that I can buy from you?
Exactly. I can't buy the emotional toll that this business has had on you.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Nor will that emotional toll give me a return on my actual dollars.
Absolutely.
The green things.
Absolutely.
It's not going to give me a return on that. So whenever you're approaching someone about your business, any type of potential merger, any type of potential sale, look, you have to take a step back and look at it from their perspective. They're not emotionally attached to your business. You are. And the tears, I've seen people cry on Shark Tank. I'm like, say, like Reggie said, save those tears for times that matter because this ain't it. They're not going to buy your business just because you crying.
Right. Exactly. But
I would not want to because I want to deal with you and your tears.
Right. A lot of people want to sell the story. Right. And I think stories are important and stories help you sell products. And that's great. But when it comes to your business, and this is back to the original point of you have to understand where you are before you sell, right? You have to be able to understand where you are. You need to know that you've done everything you can to maximize those numbers. And then you can sit across from somebody with confidence.
Exactly.
To say, I know my business is worth this because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Exactly.
Right? Because my customers have stayed with me for an average of 4.5 years and the industry average is 2.2. Right? That's meaningful. Me sitting here crying to you and telling you how hard I worked so hard. Lord knows I worked so hard. That doesn't move the needle.
All my life I've had to fight.
That is not going to make you write your name on that. You'll sign your name on the check.
It won't.
Right? So it's really about, having a great story is wonderful. It helps to helps people to engage with you and really understand how you're different from, John down the street. However, when it comes to the money, we get down to the numbers of it. When you're sitting across from somebody who does not have an emotionally vested interest in your story, how can you make it make sense for them?
Man, that's all right. So we are, this segment has gone by so fast. We're going to let you listen to a few of our sponsors, and we will be right back.
Today's episode is sponsored by P3 Financial Group, where we enrich the lives of our clients by helping them plan, protect, and prosper. Call P3 for all your tax and financial planning needs at 901-209-4015. That's 901-209-4015.
Hey, Elevate fam. Are you a business or brand looking to get in front of an audience that's all about leveling up in life, business, and mindset? Then let's partner up. The Elevate podcast is now accepting sponsors. That means you can get your brand heard by a growing community of go-getters, creatives, and purpose-driven listeners right here on the show. Whether it's a product shout-out, an ad spot, or a custom collaboration, we've got options for you. Want in? Hit us up at elevatenowtraining.com. Let's elevate together. And we are back for the final segment of Elevate from Burnout to Bliss. And today we have Monica Jenious with Meridian Financial, Fractional CFO, and Business Valuation Expert. So, Monica, we've talked about what you look for in a valuation, what you look for when you're looking to sell, but what does life after selling look like? What can selling your business actually do for the remainder of your life?
Certainly. Like most things, it depends on how you plan, right? Because when you are going into an acquisition or a divestiture of your business strategically, right, you've already thought about what it is that you need to walk away with. Now, when you're proactive, you're able to structure it in the way that benefits you the most.
Okay.
So you can decide if you want a lump sum, if you want payments over time. I'm seeing a situation now where they're paying for the business and the real estate separately.
Okay.
And so they're paying for the business over 5 years and the property over 15 years.
So the business owned the property,
yes.
The office building? Okay.
Exactly. And so the business owner is able to walk away with continued payments for a long period of time. And so he's not triggering a huge tax event in this way, right? And then the other part of it, again, speaking to being proactive, is if you know that you're heading down this path, you should really start looking at retirement options and call the kind people at P3 Wealth Management so that you're able to start contributing to your retirement before you walk out of the door entirely.
That's true, because a lot of times if someone's sole career has been business ownership, you all know how it is. Mm-hmm. Every dollar that you get mm-hmm. sometimes goes back into the business. So at the point that if you even started saving for retirement, at the point that you did, mm-hmm. you're years behind your peers who may have gone into corporate America right out of college.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of catching up that you have to do. And fortunately, if you decide to sell your business, this can kind of be your catch-up plan.
Absolutely.
But it does have to be strategic, because mm-hmm. there can be some tax implications for getting a lump sum of money all at once.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, like anything else, planning is key. Also, being a self-employed person, you have a lot more options in terms of retirement savings. And so, I said, call you guys. But, seriously, mm-hmm. Call a financial advisor who can really help you to get things rolling. Once you've hit your stride and you're profitable on a consistent basis, you need to start thinking about how you're taking money out of your business. Mm-hmm. Salary and wages is one way, but retirement planning and retirement savings accounts in all the forms mm-hmm. are a really good tool that you can use to start reimbursing yourself for all of your sweat equity over the years. Mm-hmm. And so really those conversations should take place before you get to the end and before you get to the transaction date, mm-hmm. so that you and your financial team have set things in place so that you know exactly how much money can you earn before you start really climbing that tax rate ladder, because it gets real quick.
It does. And sometimes people don't even consider their basis, and I'll go into that. So your mm-hmm. basis in any investment is what you initially paid for plus any improvements. So you have a basis in real estate investments. You have a basis in your own business.
Absolutely.
You may think about it in real estate or stock, but in your own business, that's what you put into the business.
Absolutely.
So your profit, when you pay taxes on the profit, it's going to be less your basis. So
right.
if you started the company with $100,000, mm-hmm. you can subtract that from the amount that you pay taxes on.
Exactly.
When you sell. So just get with somebody.
And that's why it's so critical to make sure that your books are accurate, because all the little things, mm-hmm. you bought this piece of equipment for $5,000 on your personal credit card, and so you don't think about it. It may not have come out of your business account,
right.
but it should be accounted for in your business books, because that's part of your contribution.
It sure is.
If I have this, old van that I gave to my business to use as a work truck, that's an asset for the business, and I need to make sure that that's accounted for correctly, because like you said, Eb, your basis is going to really determine how hard that tax bill is going to hit you. Mm-hmm. And when your basis is accurate, it gives you a lot more options.
And then just think over 20 years of putting things in here, things in there. Well, I'm out and about. Even if it's something even if the business has the money, if you still bought something with your own personal money and
Absolutely.
The business did not reimburse you, that is a contribution to your business and therefore increases your basis in the business. So at the point that you're ready to sell, thinking about selling, you need a whole team of people.
Absolutely.
To get with. You need someone like Monica, Fractional CFO. You need an accountant, tax accountant. You need a financial advisor. Mm-hmm. You need all of these things to make sure that your exit is done the right way.
Right. You want your finances done for you, not to you.
So
you have to get ahead of it.
Yeah,
you really
definitely. And even if you have family taking over the business, let's
mm-hmm.
make sure you set them up properly.
Absolutely. And have those hard conversations and trying to get to the, selling internally. There are things that you may not share with everybody in your business, even if they are a key employee. And so mm-hmm. it's really important to disclose, here's what it takes to keep this afloat. And here's what I normally take care of personally, mm-hmm. right? Because this was a subscription that I started 10 years ago, and it just goes on there and I don't care about it. But it still has to be accounted for.
Exactly. That's good advice. Very good advice. Okay, Monica, so we always want to leave our listeners with practical steps that they can do. Like, some things require expertise, but we at least want to give them something that if they didn't call anybody, mm-hmm. that some things that they can implement and it will be helpful. So what practical steps would you give our listeners?
Absolutely. So the first thing is you need to make sure that your financials are clean. Mm-hmm. You need to make sure that every dollar that you earn is recognized as revenue. Everything that you spend on the business is allocated in the appropriate place, whether that's buying equipment or your regular operating expenses. You need to make sure that all of your debt is accounted for on your balance sheet. and everything that you own that's used for the benefit of the business is recorded, right? Because when you're talking to a third party and they're looking at your numbers, they don't want you to tell them. They're going to say, send me your tax returns, send me your financial statements, send me your employee records. And so you want to make sure that you're not in cleanup phase before you start doing that. You need to make sure that you're starting with clean financials. And you need to look at those in depth. And I always say, if a service or product that you sell generates more than 25% or more of your total revenue, then you need to get in its business, right? How much does it cost you to make the product, to make the stuff, or provide the service, right? How much does it actually cost you? And then start thinking about how can you influence those numbers, right? Do you need to renegotiate with your vendors? Do you need to source a new vendor? And I mean, just as an example, I've got a client who, I mean, she pays her bills literally the day that she gets them because she hates owing money to people. And I said, well, that's fine if you do that, but oftentimes vendors will give you a 5% discount on your total invoice if you pay within 5 days or if you pay within 10 days. So ask for those discounts because that's an easy way that you can improve your margins without having to change anything. Right. Other than having a conversation with somebody. Especially if that's your habit. Exactly. Exactly. That's something you do on a regular basis. So understand your numbers, make sure your financials are clean, get into the business of the things that really drive your profitability and growth, and then do a kind of a paper valuation. If I were to sell my business today, what's my profit number? And then we multiply that, and I would say 2.5 times to 5 times your profit. Okay. Just to kind of give you a, napkin valuation. So you actually have something to start with.
So I have a question. Sure. The multiple for your business, is that different by industry?
Absolutely. It's different by industry, and it can vary from the buyer. I mean, when I was on the buyer side of acquisitions and we were doing the valuation, say, here's how much this company is worth, we had a range of 3% to 6.5%. Okay. And so that's when I talk about being able to really speak to your numbers with confidence. Whether we went with your profit number times 3 or by 6.5 was based on the strength of your revenue, the consistency of your clients, and all those things. So if you have no idea, then we're going to go with 3 or maybe even 2.5% because we don't know what we're buying. Right. Right. We want to make sure that we're covering our ROI. Right. And so as a business owner, your ability to really speak to those numbers with confidence and say, no, my customers have been here on average for 7.5 years. Right. Or on average, I'm profitable by 40% and the average in the industry is 25. That's how you can, with your conversation, with your story, now you can actually move the needle from 2.5% to 6 times.
Man, okay. So as you're talking, I'm thinking about all of these things. If I could clone myself, I'm thinking about all these different things that I can track for our own business that I don't currently track. So it's inspiring, but it's also giving me a little.
It's overwhelming.
Anxiousness.
Sure.
But yeah, but I like numbers, so I'm like, okay, how can I track this and this and this and this? So my advice for that part, if you're like me and you want to do it all, is find a few that you can do and stick with.
Absolutely.
And start there, because sometimes we'll have analysis paralysis and we'll want to do all of the things and we end up doing none of the things. Right. So pick out 2. I say pick out 2 or 3 key indicators and then start there.
Absolutely. I mean, and if I would say if you had to track 3, track your cash on hand, track your cash flow, track your customer retention.
Interesting.
One more thing, if I can say this. Yeah. So, and I say cash flow, and I want to make sure we understand what that means. So, on your net income, your profit is determined by your revenue minus your expenses. One thing that's not on your profit and loss statement are your debt payments. True. And so, as we talk about cash flow, I can make $100,000 this month, and I have $50,000 in operating expenses, and it looks fantastic. But if I've got $54,000 in debt payments, I'm cash flow negative. I'm losing $4,000 a month. And so as you calculate your cash flow, you need to take into account what's your profit minus your debt payments. And that tells you exactly what kind of cash you're working with.
So just to get into that a little more, to make sure everybody understands. So, and I talk to people about this. Like Monica said, on your profit and loss statement, there are some things that are an expense and some things are not. So when if you have a loan, if you have a mortgage on your business, let's say your mortgage payment is $3,000 for that month. $250 may be the interest. The other $2,750 is actually going to pay off the loan. Right. You won't see $2,750 on your profit and loss statement. Exactly. You will only see the $250, which is interest, which means whatever that bottom number is, that may be your profit. but you spent $22,750 more than what you see on that line.
Exactly.
So that's what she was saying when she said that your debt service payments are not on the P&L. So that's why the P&L may not always be an indicator of how much cash you have in the bank.
Absolutely.
And I'll have people say, well, we were profitable, but I don't see the cash. Because you don't have the cash.
Right.
You spent it. It's just not reflected on the profit and loss statement because what you spent it on is not considered an expense. So
right.
I'm glad you brought that up because that confuses a lot of people in
Absolutely.
business.
Yeah, profit is one thing. The cash flow is something entirely different.
It is. And like you said, cash is king.
Yes, it is.
Well, we are about to get out of here. Man, this has been a great segment. I really hope that you got something from it. I love having Monica on, and we will probably have her on again.
I'd love
so
to.
if you have some other topics or ideas that you would like for us to discuss, let us know, and we can definitely make that happen. A couple of things I want to leave you with is to make sure that you don't wait until you're burnt out to figure out your exit.
Absolutely.
At that point, when we were talking about emotions versus logic, you're burnt out. So you're too emotionally involved at that point to make a good logical decision.
Right.
So think ahead and make plans on your exit then. And also keep in mind, yes, you can just close the business, but selling it or transitioning it can really set your family up.
Absolutely.
Your family's legacy. And that's even if they don't want to go into the business.
Absolutely.
Because you're creating money that can be passed on to them. But Monica, I want to thank you for being a guest and let them know how they can reach you.
Well, thank you so much, Ebony. It's been my pleasure. So the most direct way to get me is to email me. My email address is mjenious@meridianfm.net. That's MJENIOUS@meridian, MERIDIAN, F as in Frank, M as in Mary.net.
Okay, awesome. So again, if you have any need for CFO services, if you want to get into more KPIs and just tracking your business more, Monica is your girl. Always, it's been a pleasure to be here with you guys. Next week, Reggie will be back, but today, hopefully, you're walking away with seeing your business as more than just income. It is actually an asset with a lasting value. So continue to elevate, and we will see you next week. We're out. Hey, Elevate fam. Are you a business or brand looking to get in front of an audience that's all about leveling up in life, business, and mindset? Then let's partner up. The Elevate podcast is now accepting sponsors. That means you can get your brand heard by a growing community of go-getters, creatives, and purpose-driven listeners right here on the show. Whether it's a product shout-out, an ad spot, or a custom collaboration, we've got options for you. Want in? Hit us up at elevatenowtraining.com. Let's elevate together.